know only the EC and returning officers have the power to declare who is winning and who's lost. Stay with us as we bring you the facts, the shocks, the winning smiles, and of course, accurate reportage.
Now, so far, we've brought you reports from the field. We brought you some analysis from our experts and digested election data. We told you exactly what these data means, and so there's so much information around, and it's difficult to tell what's actually accurate. That's why our election hub is doing all the hard work, sifting the chaff from the wheat and making sense of the people's verdict. It's election night, and Ghana's Voice will carry you through the best way how far. I am Lily Mohammed, and I'm here
with Bernice Abubaidul-Ansah. Please stay with us.
I can't. Our experts, security analysts are here. We've recorded incidents that were needless. We saw same in 2020. A lot of you said, let's go into this election, let's go peacefully, let's come out, and then Ghana will win. We are recording similar incidents again. Did we learn lessons from 2020? Prof?
No, we did not. And we have not. And I think we live in a country where we have a penchant for sweeping things under the carpet, covering it up with night sloganeering, music, dance, and whining. So we signed a peace pact. You know, I've consistently made this statement that you send a peace pact because there's a problem that either you've resolved or you want resolved.
Exactly.
But when you sign a peace pact and it doesn't touch on critical issues and problems, it becomes a wobbly peace pact.
Right.
Because 8 people were murdered, several hurt, people raped and abused, you know, the military invaded parliament, and we made believe as if nothing happened.
Yeah.
That's business as usual.
And the people who did it have been emboldened, and they do things and talk as if the country belongs to them. We know them.
So when you just go sign a peace pact, then what it happens, as Adam is saying, is that you've emboldened those people. Either they are still in service or they are not. And then they can continue to do things that one does not expect them to do. So, I mean, I've traveled from Elmina into town today, and I saw these jeeps loaded with military people. And, you know, people always asking them, what are you doing here? Move away.
Literally hooting at them.
Yeah.
Right. And Prof, not to cut you, but we really heard from the NDC when these incidents occurred, especially in Techiman South. Let's go now to the NDC's headquarters, because they have something to tell us. They're having a presser now. Let's hear what they have to say.
Always done this since 1992. Coalition has always been a public exercise. And the Jimensa Bosmanasare Samuel Tete led EC cannot change it. Neither can the failed outgoing NPP government change this. We need to make that very, very clear. And so we thank all our supporters who have heeded this call, stopped all manner of jubilations, and are presently at constituency coalition centers. We will continue to call on you, appeal to you to conduct yourself peacefully, responsibly, and orderly. And please ensure that you are at least 100 meters away from the main coalition center. But you should be observing your eyes, your ears, your nose should be observing the process. You should be smelling everything going on. You should be listening to everything going on, so that if there is any issue, you can draw our attention to that for us to act. So ignore the lamentations of our friends in the NPP who have all of a sudden turned into evangelists. I heard their campaign communication director quoting 1 Kings chapter 3 and all that. Bible quotations that I'm sure he has not even read before. Today, he's an evangelist quoting Bible quotations. This is not a biblical, quotation exercise. We are dealing with a public election governed by laws. And the call we have made is in consonance with the electoral laws of this country and with the conventions and practices that we have used for elections in Ghana since 1992. The earlier they get that, the better. But as I served notice and actually cautioned our agents and supporters to be on high alert for the rigging machinations of the NPP in this critical stage, or at this critical stage of the electoral process, we have come by incontrovertible evidence that shows that the NPP has not changed. But if they have changed at all, they have changed from bad to worse. They don't think that elections are about counting hairs. They still think that the election is about cutting hairs. They were one time lucky with violence and thuggery, and today they think that they can be second time lucky with thuggery and violence. But as the boys say in our Ghanaian society, they lie bad. This time around, violence will not prevail. Violence will not win the NPP this election, because there will be an appropriate resistance for what they have planned. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to take you to Atwemanwabieja South constituency. Even as I was addressing you, and by extension the good people of Ghana, the NPP had assigned their thugs, positioned them somewhere around Sepase. And if you know that constituency very well, polls had ended in Ebuakwa, and ballot papers were being moved to Nkawie, the capital of the district, for collation at the constituency collation center. On their way from Ebuakwa to Nkawie, when they go to Sepase, some thugs of the NPP pounced on that vehicle. They were already holding 2 ballot boxes full of ballot papers, attempting to swap 2 ballot boxes with the ballot boxes that they were holding. Thanks to the resistance that our supporters, agents, observers mounted, and supported by the Ghana police, were able to overpower them, and they were arrested. And as I speak to you, they are in police custody, and I want to show you videos of what happened. And the media, you can check with your correspondents in the Ashanti region. These shameless, desperate people who think that this country belongs to them and will stop at nothing to hold on to power, even when they know the people of Ghana have rejected them. This is what they are up to again. They did it in 2020, they've started again. So this is the Sepase police station. There's the confrontations going on. When they arrested them, they brought them here. But let's go to the next video so that they can see the ballot box. Yeah, so that's one of the guys. Can you go to the next one? Next one. Yes, so these are the 2 ballot boxes they try to swap with authentic ballot boxes. These are the 2 ballot boxes, and the police have seized that. They have seized that, and this was as a result of the vigilance of our people and the professionalism of the Ghana Police Service, and we commend them for that. So these are the ballot boxes. They pounced on the vehicle which was transporting the ballot boxes from Ebuakwa to Nkawie Sepase, and they already had a ballot box with papers in it, ballot papers in it already printed. So when we tell you that these guys are up to no good, they are criminally minded. These are demented psychopaths who would do everything and anything to hold on to power, including killing, including stealing. This is what we are talking about. They make frivolous allegations without any proof. We are giving you proof. So the new evangelist, the NPP has now got an evangelist, Dennis Miracles Abuaje. We want him to hold a press conference on this and tell us whether this is true or not. Now, let's move from Atwemanwabieja South and come to the central region, Awutu Senya East constituency, where we've recorded another murder of an innocent citizen who happens to be a supporter of the National Democratic Congress. clearly, Awutu Senya East constituency is green. The tyrant Hawa Kumsin is a goner. And seeing that power has obviously left her, she cannot come to terms with the reality and has resorted to violence as she is known for. She's the same person who went to a police station and actually pulled a gun and shot at innocent civilians. And today, his thugs who were brought in from the Boku area, we know them, we have intel on all of them, were directed by Hawa Kumsin to fire at an innocent, unarmed supporter of the NDC. Today, our former constituency secretary for Ayawaso, for Awutu Senya East constituency, Tuareg is no longer with the living. He's no longer with us. Why? Because thugs of this same woman, Hawa Kumsin, beat him to pulp. And he never recovered, never got better until he died very painfully, leaving behind many children. So for how long will Hawa Kumsin continue to do this? As I speak to you, one supporter of the NDC has been murdered. He's dead. The other is in critical condition at the hospital. But that is not to say that we have lost focus. It is a very sad moment for us, a very difficult moment for us. But until Honorable Now Koyo is declared as a member of parliament elect for that constituency, we shall rest not in that constituency. And the information we have is that the coalition currently ongoing at the coalition center at ASEC is almost coming to an end. And we want to call on all our supporters, all our agents to remain extra vigilant until the process is concluded. The duly elected member of parliament for the constituency is declared by the EC. The resource form duly signed by agents, our agents get his or her copy. It is posted on the wall, and then you can go and jubilate. But until then, let's remain vigilant. So that is what done there. And when we have the opportunity to address you again, we will show you pictures and videos of that. But I'm sure by now your correspondents in the area have already spoken to you about this sad development. But you know, nobody goes scot-free after shedding innocent blood. The NPP doesn't understand what is happening to them today. And one of the reasons why they are losing this miserably, like their own prophet told them they will lose spot all, is because of the 8 innocent Ghanaians they murdered in 2020. The blood of those innocent Ghanaians will forever be on their head. And so will be the blood of these 2 innocent Ghanaians who have been murdered today. One in Nyankpala in the Tolon constituency. An innocent civilian who was sitting somewhere only for these NPP thugs under the instruction of their parliamentary candidate Habib to open fire on him. And if you can show that that is the injured person, show us the picture of the one who they murdered in cold blood under a bench because they were seated down. They didn't have any weapon. They killed them just like that because they had gone to the UDS campus at Nyankpala to influence and induce students to vote for Habib. Our supporters protested. It led to some heated exchanges and fisticuffs. The MPP thugs left the scene with Habib and came back there with their AK-47s and all that. They began to shoot indiscriminately to intimidate the crowd. The crowd dispersed. And on their way out, they met these NDC supporters sitting somewhere under an NDC shed. And they just opened fire on them and killed one at the spot. And here let me commend the Ghana Police Service led by IGP Dampare. IGP, so far so good. It's not been smooth. We've not been happy with how some military men have been deployed and how some of them are behaving. But I think that so far, the Election Security Task Force under your leadership has done its best to maintain law and order in consonance with the laws governing this process. And we entreat you to continue to do so in accordance with the constitution that you have sworn to uphold. And I'm commending him because we understand that 4 of the criminals who committed this dastardly act have been arrested by the police. But the main culprit, who is Habib, must be arrested. And if he's not arrested today, on the 8th of January, he will be arrested. Just like our Kumsa. Mark that on the wall. Then, in Greater Accra, we are having serious challenges in 4 constituencies. One is Ayawaso Central, where the Interior Minister, what's his name? Henry Korte is Member of Parliament and the outgoing Member of Parliament for the area. We are having similar issue at Tema Central, Ablikuma West, especially where Aslawusu is the Member of Parliament, and Ablikuma North. And the common feature of all these challenges we are having at these coalition centers is that the police, or let me not even say the police, these thugs of the NPP, because some of them may be wearing police uniforms or military uniforms, but you can't even tell today in Akufo-Addo's Ghana whether these people are truly soldiers. You can't really tell. That is how depraved the leadership of this country has become, and how bastardized our state institutions have been, reduced to. And so these thugs don't want to allow members of the public to at least observe, because at Ablikuma West, thugs of the NPP tried to engage in ballot box swapping. They threw into the coalition center 2 ballot boxes. And people saw it because they were there. And they were there because we called on them to be there. Had they not been there, the story could have been a different one. So they were there and then protested and resisted that ballot box swapping attempt by the NPP. Immediately that happened, Aslawusu called her soldiers, and they came there in a truck. Soldiers armed to the teeth surrounding the coalition center. Well, our Deputy General Secretary is on the ground, and I'm told that the soldiers have now backed off. But that is a challenge we are encountering there. Same as Ablikuma North, same as Tema Central. And we are telling our people, stand your ground. Stand your ground. Be peaceful, be responsible, be orderly, but stand your ground. You have nothing to fear, because we are on the side of the law. We are on the side of the law. And they cannot kill all of us in Ghana. They can't. Now, to conclude, there is also the issue of Abuakwa North in the eastern region, where, again, at the coalition center, the police has fired tear gas, they are spraying pepper spray just to make sure that our people are not there to observe the process. And we want to call on the IGP to address these issues that we are encountering in some of these polling stations. The entire electoral process is a public exercise, from the police station level to the constituency level to the regional level to the national level. Accredited agents are the ones who are allowed to be in the coalition rooms. We all know that. But the public, the general public, is allowed to be around to observe what is happening. What is happening is not an election of a secret society. It's an election of a democratic country. People have cast their votes. What do you have to hide? And some people will say, oh, but your agents are there, allow them. 2 agents and a few observers. What about if they bandit them somewhere? Like they did at Techiman South. They attack them. They hound them out. Who will be there to defend them? And you want us, a serious political party, ready for power and in fact coming into power, to listen to your advice and tell our supporters to sleep at home and allow only 2 agents to be there observing the coalition? You think we are zombies? And it will not happen today. It will not happen tomorrow. We will police this exercise to the very end, and we call on our supporters to do exactly that. Now, finally, I'll end with a joke. I heard the new evangelist the NPP has now discovered, their communications director, who is now quoting a lot of Bible quotations, saying that they have won the election. Well, I'm not here to counter that. I'm not here to say that we have won. As for who has won, by now every Ghanaian knows. They themselves, they know. And I want to show you one person who knows, because as the evangelist was preaching and saying they have won, His brother, the communications director of the NPP, was by his side. And from the look on his face, can we see that picture? I want to show you the face of a man who says he has won an election. Look, this is Richard Ahiagba, MPP communications director. So if the MPP has truly won an election, you think this is how Richard Ahiagba will be looking? This will be his countenance and his facial expression. And I'm sure you saw Fatima too. Yes, so these are the people who claim they have won an election. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for your patience. We thank you for your collaboration. We appreciate your presence here with us, and we want to encourage you to stick with us until we bring this process to an end. Abusuafo mebo asemna meka ene to fetietiatia. Enche cry ne mo be in central for be din kita ho. Ye ne oman no teach you your supporters nyina kasa say. About one year 2 year. Ya to akan abobo no polling station. But e fa na ye do so ye constituency coalition center no. Eho ihnya pa enti yenyai enigye ne jubilation dia na yenyina yenkoka ye agents no constituency coalition center yes ye ko radan na ye coalition.
Okay, so that's the National Communications Officer of the NDC. He's calling on the IGP. Interestingly, the NPP is also calling on the IGP. They are both asking their supporters to be vigilant, and yet we are recording incidents of violence. We are recording shooting incidents. Now, the real question is, didn't we sniff this information about guns in circulation prior to the election?
Oh, we sniffed it, we knew it, but typical of Ghanaians, it's business as usual. Let me give you a bit of history. In 2005, we did a baseline survey that said we had about 750,000 unregistered guns in civilian hands. Then the government in power said, look, 750,000 is too serious, so can't we look at the figures again? So we looked at the figures again and thought, well, look, a margin of error, so let's bring it down to 500,000. If you take the normal attrition rate of 20% over time, then you would think, well, that should be about 100,000. When we did the baseline survey again in 2014, we had 2.3 million unregistered guns. Last month, we just did a survey again, talking to 10,800 and I think
the salient funds.
Yes,
survey.
the salient funds.
Part of it.
Yeah, the salient funds survey. So looking at what has been happening around the sub-region and in Ghana, well, we don't have the figures yet. We will have them next year.
But it will be huge.
It will be huge.
Humongous.
Massive. But we have also a cultural affinity for guns in this country. So gun culture is part of our daily lives. What has shifted is our appetite for military-grade guns. And those are guns that you just don't find on the streets. So somebody somewhere is deliberately bringing these guns in, infiltrating them into the country. They have some networks who get access to these guns and are increasingly using them to intimidate us.
But Prof, why do you think there's a need for these guns? Because yes, there are people supplying these guns, but if there's no demand of it, then there's no point to bring it in, right? So what is causing that desire to have these military-grade guns?
To threaten you and I.
To win an election.
Yeah, you can create an artificial demand, okay? And let's not forget that violence over time has become a currency in this country. That violence, particularly during elections, and there's a direct positive correlation between those who get political or office and their violent behavior, either orally or physically during elections. So the demand for guns, all kinds of accoutrements to intimidate, to threaten, it has actually become part of our political culture.
Right. Mr. Bona, could it also be there have been general concerns about the Ghana Police Service and the security agencies as a whole? It appears that the mistrust in these institutions keep rising every year. Now let's look at a situation where the citizen feels already threatened. Could that also be the reason why people want to protect themselves? Is that an indictment on our security agencies?
It's an indictment on the political class. Because the president appoints everybody. Listen, he spoke about the Salient Fund survey, which is sponsored by, the UNDP. It's not sponsored by the government of Ghana. I represent CSOs on the Small Arms and Light Weapons Commission. We put together for 7 years. He knows it. We put together a draft bill so that we can turn the Small Arms Commission into an authority. He's been part of a lot of these things. My brother Prof will tell you that if the executive wanted to reduce guns that we have in this country and what is coming and probably take them out, they would have passed that bill into law. It's been lying in Mr. Henry Cote's office for all this while gathering dust. Because we don't have one single institution that is in charge of gun registration and gun. So once upon a time, once a while you hear somebody say this number of guns have come, and then when you hear those things happen, then it means a DDJ has happened. Somebody's trying to outsmart, and therefore, okay, I will do you. You see, because we don't. The Small Arms is just an advisory body. So when a vessel comes, if it was an authority, if a vessel lands in what do you call it, Ghana, when I say a vessel, including aeroplanes, they are supposed to go on board and check, but you don't have any role to play. And so, if that bill was to be passed into law, then you would have one single unit, because the police is so busy. And in putting together this bill, it took us about 7 years. And this is not even sponsored by the government of Ghana. They've signed other things to pass it into law. Up to today, zilch. This government we are doing this government bye-bye. They still haven't signed it into law. So it will be difficult for anyone to convince me that government is not actually benefiting from gun running in this country. Do you understand me? So as far as I'm concerned, you can see shootings everywhere. I want to stay in power. Why should I pass a law that you take all the guns from me? Why would I wouldn't do that? And so I want to believe that the new government, the new government that will take over, should be able to give some authority to some of these state institutions to ensure.
Yeah, just one split second. I think we can also look at the licensing regime.
Yes.
And that there's a direct correlation once more between those who get the licenses to import and their political affiliations. So there's no real political will.
No, it's not there.
To bring this under control.
No.
Because it serves all kinds of purposes.
Including explosives.
Interesting. If you just joined us, this is your election hub. I'm Bernice Abubaidulans, and I'm here with my colleague Lily Mohammed. We've been joined by Dr. Adam Bona and Professor Kwesi Enin, who are both security analysts. And we are talking hard on security because generally the voting process was peaceful. But it appears as the counting continues, there are incidents of violence, shootings, and the police having to use tear gas to control and disperse some crowds. So we're really getting concerned. Hopefully, we can bring the situation under control. Prof, we saw some citizens physically engage with military officers. I mean, when I saw that video, what came to mind was what happened to the late Adam Mahama. And I was deeply concerned, but we were also told by the military that we wouldn't see any men in uniform on election day. We began to see them. The people wanted to know where you were coming from, who asked you to come here, and then it created that bit of a confusion. What is your perception about the military in terms of their involvement in this year's election? Even though we haven't seen them generally on the ground, this particular incident seems to stand out.
Well, not only this incident, I think were you to collate people's experiences yesterday and today, probably you'll get a bit more stories. I traveled, as I said earlier on, from Elmina into Accra this afternoon, and I saw at least 4 pickup vehicles, 2 in motion with about 24 officers or personnel, and 2 stationary at Anamabo near a polling station. And I think one would have expected the military high command, to issue a statement explaining what is happening. You see, because a military is usually the last bastion that protects the state. And we cannot have, visuals of citizens challenging, engaging, managing to actually put them on the ground and all that. That poses quite some problems relating, to the respect, that people have for such an important institution.
We actually recorded a very peaceful process.
Yes.
After polls close, then we are recording incidents of violence. Now, one of the things on my mind is the use of national security operatives. When did we get here as a country that national security operatives brazenly attack people?
Do you want to go first?
Well, yes. let me take it first. You see, God bless Dampare. If Dampare hadn't put in measures, today I'm sure so many Ghanaians would have lost their lives. I'm being very honest with you. Even with all the measures put in place, to the point where the CDS and his, those who agree with him decided that the military should not be involved. Some hoodlums within the military still attempted to deploy the military. I'm told the president is meeting heads of security this night, probably to let them know that it's over. Maybe there's going to be a transition, which I believe we have to. We are one people. I'm told Gabriel Tridakun has just posted something that we are one people, which I think it is true. We are. But mine is that, you see, we got to a point where rule of law was thrown to the dogs. So you have national security operatives, small boys, who run around calling people names, doing things that sometimes you ask yourself, why should it be? And I must say, Kandapa has tried to stabilize national security.
Okay.
As for that, I mean, you will see me take him on, but I'll say he's managed. Who had managed national security,
and it's not been easy for him.
And I must admit, it hasn't been easy.
It hasn't been easy for him
because then he's a senior person, and he
but
tries.
But why hasn't it been easy? I mean, this is national security.
If you look at the military today, that is not being run by the military. You have a military that is not. You have a military that is run by people who are not in the military. Then you should know that you would have a national security minister if he doesn't have a certain skill and demeanor. Managing these people, you have Treme who is trying to run all the shows. Do you understand me? Yeah. People at national, young boys at national security who have taken everybody hostage, who try to call the shots, and you will have some, excuse me to say, hoodlums within the military who would want to hoodwink everybody along the line.
But that has been the problem. When we had the Ayawaso West Wogan by-election violence, we spent money. We had a committee. Media houses took the hearings live. We came up with recommendations. But here we are. We didn't implement any of those
recommendations. The white paper whitewashed the commission's report. So you see, I think that if there is a new government, that government should reinstitute, should reinvestigate Ayawaso West Wogan, because it was the mother of all violence. And when the report, look at how diligent the respected persons who sat on that report. For the president to say, the person who was slapped was provoked, and the president is a senior lawyer. Who said when you are provoked, you slap? I mean, who determines what is provocation? Who determines? I think it is the court, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the president decided to arrogate unto himself the powers of a judge. So he said the person who slapped was provoked. That is why he slapped. So As for Ayawaso West Wagon, I think it taught us a lesson. But subsequently, when this new IGP came, put in measures, we went to Kumewu, no incident. We went to Offenso, wherever. Is it Offenso? Asin North, no incident. Then they had their Ejoso, then their own internal, heated elections, no incident. So I think over the period we have learned. This evening I'm told the military, in fact, had ordered the boys to retreat. And when you look at, let me just read something to you for your viewers. Let me just read something to you from the garrisons. You have 1 BN was won, not by the MPP. 2 BN was won, not by the MPP. So MPP literally has lost in all the garrisons in Ghana.
Interesting. Well, let me just add that we are yet to receive certified results.
Let me just add that I'm just trying to speak directly to security officers.
Right. Okay.
Who are probably between today, this night, and tomorrow morning and thereabout, who are going to be used to foment trouble that you see, whether you like it or not. When the wind of change is blowing, we saw it under Rawlings. Rawlings was in green, and he metamorphosed into civilian dress like me. But when it came for him to go, nothing stopped Ghanaians. You see the way Ghanaians are there. I'm saying they should stay there, because you see, I have been calling for vigilance. And these elections, I call it the thumbs riot, where we are thumb printing. It's a riot. We are not using cutlasses. And so, as far as I'm concerned, we are at liberty to move around, isn't it? So if people are there, and that will stop hoodlums from trying to foment trouble, they should stay there. When the declarations are done, everybody goes home. Then we are all happy. But as far as I'm concerned, I want to speak to the military commanders and the military officers that you see, enough is enough. I know you have sidelined your CDS. Enough is enough. At the moment, you can see in the garrisons, their wives, they themselves, their families said this is how they want to go. And that speaks volumes. Right. We are all Ghanaians. And so mine is that somebody will win at a time. Somebody will lose at a time. So probably if it happens that at the end of everything, when EC, who officially would have to do an announcement, announces that this party is lost and this party is won, you go home. We wish you better luck next time. You go do your work. If there was some Edidija, just make sure you bring everybody together and say, next time, help us when we win. This time around, things will be done well. I think that is how we should go as a nation. We shouldn't take it too personal. Right. Ghana is not one person's property.
Well, I think we are going to continue to take it personal because of the allure of public office and the lack of accountability. I want to go back to the Ayawaso West Wagon case. This was a situation where the state and its apparatuses had failed us woefully. All the security ministers told us they didn't know where these guys came from. 3 parliamentary committees that ought to have known because they approved the funds. The Parliamentary Committee on Defense and Interior, totally clueless in everything around security. The Public Accounts Committee and the Finance Committee, these 3 parliamentary committees ought to have known who these guys are because they approved the monies. I appeared before the Emil Short Commission and spoke about the dangers of unregulated armed men outside the statutory framework. And for that document to be whitewashed and dismissed. And it is the same dismissal that came with the Vigilante Act, Act 999. You know, we live in a country, and I think, Bernice, you use the word political elites. We live in a country where, I like my brother's word, hoodlums have clothed themselves in politically acceptable narratives, but behave in a manner that reflects a gangster mentality. Okay? So we sign on to things, but we decided we won't implement them. So a short report is rubbish. The Vigilante Act is rubbish. And I'm hoping that whoever takes power must clamp down on vigilantism. Otherwise, from 15th of January, we will regret living in this country.
What would that do to us as a beacon of democracy?
Who says we are a beacon of democracy?
Well, that's what we tout ourselves as.
Because we are not.
Oh, we're not.
Far from it.
Living in past glory, I guess.
Past glory, but probably also like an emperor without clothes.
I think it's like make look believe. It's like a movie. Make look believe. That I want to call it make look believe.
Okay.
So you watch a movie and you begin to weep, and the people are acting, and so we are acting in this our democracy. Is more or less like acting, because I still don't understand how we were able to sell all our state lands from Hamile to Teshi. State lands that our ancestors left for us have all been sold from Teshi, Hamile to Teshi. Are we not?
That's almost 900 kilometers.
We have sold all the state lands between, you know where Hamile is, and you know you are from Boku, right? Yeah. So you know where Boku is. So let's use Boku.
Is, yeah.
Where Boku is, the far and then Teshi. We've sold all the state lands in between. So what kind of democracy are we practicing? Where we don't leave anything for generations unborn to also come and benefit from what the Kwame Nkrumah who built Ghana, who got us independence. I'm told he never even built a house for himself.
He never owned the clothing that he wore.
So sometimes I ask myself, what kind of democracy do we pride ourselves to be within? Where our generation, the soil, we've destroyed it, the military is gone. So today, if we have problems, am I going to call CDS who has been sidelined, or I call COAS? Or who am I going to call? Do you understand me? So we have serious issues, and I say that.
Is that not a deepening threat to us?
No, we would have to fix it. You see, I think we are smart enough as a people to come to that realization and say enough is enough. Let's try and fix the country. You see, the truth is, I don't think we hate one another. If we want to fix Ghana, we would fix it without, I believe that those who have, taken over all of us, our properties, those properties must be collected, whatever it takes, because I think it is not fair.
Well, it's not just about fairness. It's criminal.
You see, where things that were left for us, aviation lands just around, it's all sold. Go to motorway lands that Kwame Nkrumah gone.
Go to cantonments.
They are all gone. So I asked myself, you can imagine this our generation. Now you are not sure when you are eating Kofi Brookman, whether you are eating cyanide. And you have a regional chairman of a party come on TV to be displaying gold. And you see, in a serious country, he would have been arrested immediately. It is a precious metal, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So have you paid? We need to know, how did you get it?
But he won't be arrested.
But unfortunately, that's what I'm saying. Our democracy, is make look believe, where, everything is painted very beautifully, but when you go behind, it's smelly, it's rotten. That's the way it looks. And that is what our military has been turned into today. So today you cannot really see people resisting the military and hooting at them.
Because hitherto, you would barely see anybody even go close to a military officer.
Yes.
The moment you see that uniform, there's some fear in you.
Yes.
But today, if somebody can boldly attack a military
single-handed, one person bring down 2 military officers, and he nearly disarmed 2 military officers because the full glare of the public.
They are not officers. These are
exactly hoodlums. Call them that way. These are criminals.
Because look, the basic training that they are given is such that by the time they wear that uniform and get that rank and are issued with a weapon for official duties, it's something else. But Adam is very concerned about the military, but I'm concerned about the general facade of public institutions in this country. When both sides of the House in Parliament sign that legislative instrument to destroy our water bodies.
Go into the forest.
To go into the forest.
Come on. Who does that?
Okay. Our only lack is that the new parliament, every single parliamentary cycle, we lose about 30 to 40% of the parliamentarians. And the 9th parliament, probably with those who are losing now that we are hearing, probably only about 30% of them will be 2-term parliamentarians. So it's going to be a clean slate almost. I think that gives all of us the reset that Adam is talking about. Because right now, as a nation, we are facing multiple existential threats. From the small arms, from the environmental degradation. You are worried about cyanide. Mercury travels in the air up to 1,500 kilometers.
I see.
Wow.
And stays in the air for 3 years.
Wow.
So we are all...
And there's a reason why in my wife's hometown in the eastern region, now they've told them not to, don't trap rainwater.
Okay.
Don't trap rainwater because it's contaminated.
Yeah.
Not as if you wanted purified water, it was a rainwater. Today
you remember a couple of months ago, our country had the poorest air quality.
Yeah.
And so it is evident, from what
actually,
you're saying.
OECD and ECOWAS have placed our air and water quality at a dangerous level. Not only that, this mercury, cyanide, and heavy metals are coming through the groundwater. So a country like Japan is considering banning purchase of chocolate or cocoa beans from Ghana. In 5 years' time, if we are not able to convince the new government to place Galamsey on some emergency status, there will be no cocoa for us to sell. We cannot sell pineapple. We cannot sell our peppers. The EU has basically banned everything from Ghana. Okay? But it takes an excruciatingly stupid set of leaders to bring us to where we are. We mine 8 tons of gold, close to $24 billion a year. Almost 6.5 tons of it is stolen. What the Republic of Ghana can account for is only 1.5 tons. We've allowed Burkinabes, Indians, Chinese, Turks, Albanians, and the Chinese to loot everything. And I always tell people that, you see, whoever comes as a new government is already complicit in the Galamsey.
Right. How so?
How did we get here? Those who will come to governance are not innocent people.
Sure.
They are all complicit. So we need the generality. I think Adam is talking about a societal movement to demand change. To say, look, you've got to get back to the brass tacks and see how do we regain our environment back. Our babies are being born deformed already. So the health cost. And I think we've all seen the TikTok videos in which this heavily polluted water, alum is added to it. The metals settle at the bottom of the barrel, and the water is used to cook for you and I to enjoy the acheke.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite meals.
It says so when it settles, then we use it to cook acheke. And I was thinking, do you take out the metals that remain in it, because alum might not be able to break it down.
It only clears the water. So there are multiple challenges.
It's sad though.
Interesting. Well, we are still getting reports. The results are trickling in.
Okay.
This is the station to watch if you want accurate information and facts as they appear, not colored, not whitewashed. We've got our colleagues on the ground. Earlier you saw a video where some young persons were chanting at some military officers at Anya Sotum. We understand that they were actually singing the national song, Arise Ghana Youth for Your Country. So it appears that a lot of Ghanaians are vigilant now, looking out at collation centers, observing keenly what is happening.
In fact, looking for military officers.
Exactly. and we've been bringing you the reports on the grounds. The reports are trickling in on social media. We are seeing some reports coming. So you can hear the people singing that song and literally chasing out these military persons.
Is it truly that the will of the people cannot be subverted that we're saying?
No, I've been saying that all along, that no military has ever been able to cow the people. No military has ever been able to defeat the will of the people. U.S. couldn't defeat the Vietnamese. U.S. couldn't defeat the Afghans who were using hunters' guns.
Yeah.
Okay? Hussein Mubarak, the Arab Spring, they couldn't defeat those who were agitating that they should go. They had to leave. So for me, I foresaw this happening, that you can deploy all your arsenals. You can put all the weapons you have on the field. If the people say no, eventually you must give up and leave. Yeah. And I am happy it is this way. It is better than citizens massing up and feeling, it can be done in a way that you have citizens just fill up the whole of Accra for 1 week, and that's the end of the government. Just fill Accra for 1 week, that's the end of the government. But I think we shouldn't go there.
Yeah.
The reason why we shouldn't go there is to go gradually and ensure that the right thing we are set, as we let them know that, what, we are watching, we pay taxes. We not that we don't know what is going on. You finish school with somebody, some of these people you see around, you would have been better than them in class, and overnight the person becomes a politician and he owns, luxury homes all over the place, and you will see them doing all manner of things, and you ask yourself, the Ghanaian will say, did we go or did we come? So I think that whoever wins this particular elections, Ghana will not remain the same.
But what that will mean is that we need two things: a new type of participatory politics.
What? Not the winner takes all.
No, you can still be the winner takes all, but we as citizens must insist that politics cannot be business.
And we've just received a notice from the National Peace Council urging supporters of the various parties not to mass up at polling collation centers. And so, that's why I'm coming to you, because you had earlier said that you support the call because you think
to mass up at collation centers.
Can I say that? You see, I called members of the National Peace Council this afternoon on this platform. I called them. I called them. Some of the very important people at the National Peace Council. When the military were out misbehaving, I called them and they told me that they were going to do a press conference. Because then I was expecting them. You don't ask people to sign a needless peace pact. And when the need comes for you to speak up and say that after the signing of the peace pact, it has led to the military saying they will not be involved in frontline military duties, frontline security election duties. And the military then decides, some hoodlums within the military decide to go ahead and deploy themselves. You are aware of it. Then you are telling people to go home. The hypocrisy of the National Peace Council. I'm saying I called them. I wouldn't want to mention names.
Right.
But they know themselves. I'm sure they are listening to me. I called them. I called some of the most important persons at the Peace Council. They are my friends. Anytime, we go, they want contribution, we all contribute something to support the Peace Council. I have contributed to support them. And so mine is that when we needed them the most, they failed to call the bluff of the military. The military were out there when this thing was happening in Obuasi, I called them and told them, you see, you are the only people who can act as arbiters here. Please call a press conference and tell the military, can we go by the rules set out? And they said they were going to do it. Give me some time. So is that the release they brought out?
Yes, but you see, I mean, I think there are certain ethics that must be followed when you sign peace accords or when you negotiate. When those ethics are not considered or are flouted, then the institution that must hold others accountable loses that moral imperative and authority. And I think over time, the reactive behavior and sometimes the skewed behavior of the Peace Council does not help. You know, the Peace Council must be an institution that stands forward at the risk of being out of favor with those in power. That look, we are not going to fund you because you are speaking the truth. Okay? But I think they always hedge their bets. And I think it is that hedging of bets, that inability to speak truth to power, that has made this institution lose
its credibility.
Because look, what most people don't understand is that part of the negotiations and the thinking around what a peace council could be, you know, was done by people like Ogbande and Mr.
Right. Prof, we'll come back to you shortly. We understand that there's a situation happening at Okaikwe South where some returning officers have been left stranded. We would call a woman on the ground, Christian Okwashi, to give us a bit of clarity on exactly what's happening, because it's not too clear at the moment. But what we understand is that some EC officials have been stranded because they cannot access the collation center. Lily.
Quite sad there, you know. We seem to have a lot of these incidents coming in where people are blocking the various collation centers. Somebody is trying to smuggle a ballot.
That's quite sad. The people should just be vigilant.
You know, but sometimes...
Doc, you're talking about people being vigilant. Is that not going to cause a lot of chaos in these various collation centers? Because then people are going to mass up in numbers.
No, I believe in organized chaos. You see, we can always have a theory like organized chaos, where the fact that you see a sea of people should not translate.
And we're seeing another one. We heard of Okaikwe South. Now this is Accra Academy, the collation center. People being locked out, electoral materials still in the hands of EC officials. Why do we have to see these things happen?
No, you see, because it is better this way than people losing their lives, in their numbers. Do you understand? It is better to be out there than go home and the next day you hear your neighbor's neighbor, they've all died. So if you stay, I'm saying if you don't sleep for 48 hours, I don't think you're going to die. So as far as I'm concerned, to me this looks like maybe the theory of organized, what do you call it, chaos, where they are there, you are not too sure who is leading them, but they look very organized. They look very organized even though they don't seem to have leaders. Yeah. They know what they are doing and they know why they are there, they are focused. So as far as, because both parties have asked their members to stay put. Yeah. If staying put is what is going to bring the transparency and the declaration that for the first time, we won't have, we think some do you understand me? Yeah. For the first time, we think some but at the end of the day, when you lose, you have lost because Ghanaians just didn't want you. You are gone. So for me, I just think that it is okay.
What is this craze, for want of a better expression, for politicians to want to stay in power at all cost?
I told you, the plans from Hamile or Boku to Teshin have been sold. It means that there is something there that politicians, when they get in there, I don't know.
Lily, this is not a case of supporters of a particular political party against the EC and its officials. It's the own EC mechanism that didn't work out well.
That is beating them.
Yeah. Then again, you ask the question. The EC knows the numbers. Should have anticipated the crowd.
Exactly.
What exactly happened here? I'm not too sure.
They just didn't get the accounting base right.
Right.
Because every room has the maximum number of individuals who can be there. You add the boxes to it, So somebody dropped the ball very badly.
Right.
I mean, it's most unfortunate, but we need to get the police officers there.
Definitely.
To bring about.
Because obviously, these are ballots. They are not safe.
Yeah.
Because they are being held up there in the air. And then what if somebody just snatches one and then bolts with it? What happens?
Or somebody
Legitimate
smashes
concerns.
one. And, so the longer people are there getting frustrated, shouting at each other, the rowdier they become. Let me make this point as a cautionary note to the Ghana Police Service. Their track record in crowd control is very poor. So were we to have 3, 4, 5, 6 of these incidents across the country, their capacity to control it will be very difficult.
And Prof, they've been using a lot of tear gas today. They've been firing a lot of tear gas. I remember the last time I heard of tear gas was during the May 9th disaster. I'm not sure I've heard. What we know is the water, but obviously it's an election, there are papers involved, so you'd want to stay off water. But what would you say about that? The use of tear gas in crowd control so far?
I don't think we've reached there yet. But I think because of the inadequate scale in using other methods for crowd control, then the tear gas becomes the easiest. People start to throw beer, run away, create spaces, then they can get whatever they are doing done.
Right, Doc, you raised concerns about the Peace Council. We've just received an indication that they have actually condemned shootings. We know that one happened at Ewutu Senya.
Is it condemned shootings or calling the military to go back to the barracks?
That's what you specifically spoke about.
I
don't see anything, but at least they have condemned shootings in Ewutu Senya and also the one that happened earlier today, resulting in the death.
Were the shootings at Ewutu Senya done by the military?
The military attended to a facility, a hotel, where they shouldn't be. Yesterday or 2 days ago? Yesterday. And that was like a dress rehearsal. And some of us thought, well, let's give the Peace Council the benefit of the doubt. Then this morning, we got up and we had hints of military deployment, 2BN, 4BN, trying to do their own things, going to University of Cape Coast, and people hooting at them. Then we had the mother of all that in Obuasi. So I was expecting that they should have spoken. Ask the military, go back. But they didn't. It's almost like they are afraid.
The Peace Council is always afraid.
They are just afraid
to speak up or stand up to be counted when it's necessary.
Well, we have to make you Peace Council.
They are always afraid. They dare not speak up. Me, I've become a dead goat now that I've come on retirement.
But interesting use of that expression.
I know.
I mean, people have sought to, get me sacked and driven out of this country for the past 8 years. But I'm still standing tall. Probably
because I just think that we need if we want to fix this country, then people must be bold and speak truth to power. And damn the consequences.
Truly doesn't cost that much.
I tell people that you see after all what? I don't have 20 girlfriends. Do you understand me? So I don't need. I am Ankonam, so I don't need too much where I have to be servicing too many, paying too many bills. So I'll speak my mind and do my business and go. They will try to sabotage you, but it doesn't work. It doesn't last.
It doesn't.
It doesn't last.
It doesn't last.
So as far as I am concerned, we need bold people to speak truth to power. I think that if the current MPP government had bold, even though they had a couple of them, eventually they got sabotaged. The 88 or the 90 MPs who stood up against Ken Ofori-Atta.
Yes.
Most of them lost their seats.
Suffered defeat, And the primary.
You understand me? People who do that to their own kind, you get it? You will suffer some of these consequences. Because then what you are doing is you don't want people to speak up. So I think that going forward, we should allow dissent. I think it's beautiful. But those people who disagreed, one of my friends, Apia Kubi,
Andy.
such persons
But
were,
you know what?
you know,
I think they also waited too long.
they did, but it's because they might probably have been afraid of the victimization. But you can imagine even when they waited too long, what happened to them? Most of them lost their primaries, which I think it shouldn't be.
But see, they made those who appropriated the power
Sure.
who they became.
Sure.
You see, I've told my driver, except in cases where there is a formal police dispatch rider in front of a vehicle, we don't get on the road when you fix those bogus lights and you are disturbing. And every time we stand or we stop in the middle of the road, they just move off. We should start becoming participatory citizens and demanding that those who have come for our votes begin to serve us.
So that Cecilia Dapa and co, we find money under Cecilia Dapa's bed, under her bed, and the president writes a beautiful letter, and you can't do much.
Yeah.
You have state institutions like the Iyoko board, they are building bus for themselves because the president himself has built one for himself in the Western region. We cannot live in a society.
Is that not a security apparatus? And why are we building bus to glorify?
So that's what I'm trying to say is that we have gotten to a state where things have sunk so low. So everybody thinks that, I can do things because nobody. Nobody will do me anything. Because then if I know that Prof is my boss, and Prof, this is how he likes his things. If I do it, if this water is here and he wants me to be cleaning it, I better be cleaning it because that is why he hired me. If I know that when I don't clean and he comes, he won't talk, I won't clean.
So you're placing the blame squarely at the feet of President Akufo-Addo?
100%. 100%.
Well, he says the buck stops with him.
No, 100%. 100%. You can't take even 100%. 100. Because then he literally slept on the job.
And the buck stops with
It
everyone.
stops with him because we have an executive president who, in fact, during COVID, made all of us stay in our rooms. Have you forgotten?
Yeah.
We just signed something. And eventually he went to court or something. The court said he was illegal. But by an executive order, he asked all of us to stay inside. That is how powerful the president is. And so I want to have a president who would not use his power arbitrarily, but would ensure that, our rights are not abused, people do what is right, and things are done right. And so as far as I'm concerned, I think everything stops with the president. And things should have been right. Today you see me going hard on the military. I'm going hard on the military because he has done a lot of work in that area. He just recently, he said he's retired but not tired. But the truth is that it's a highly regimented community.
Yeah, it is.
I can tell you that for 1 year, military officers have not received pay slip. How can they be paying you at EIB and you don't receive it? Do you know how much they pay you? You are not receiving pay slip. Most of them didn't vote in these elections. And you saw that, translate that in the results that came out, because if I don't vote, soldiers they give birth power, and some of them have 2-3 girlfriends. So if he has like 4-5 children, why? Me, I'm a balanced boy. Do you understand me? They give birth power, after that they do well. Soldier man, So if you won't allow him to vote, and he has like 4 or 5 children with his wife, they are 6, mother, brothers and things. Let's say in the bigger family, he calls everybody to say Muntuntia Asumesi. What do you think will happen? So for me, I just think that certain things maybe we have been taken for granted, if you ask me. Because then, those of us in the security sector, look at even the leak tape.
Yeah.
When we went round to conduct the survey, the security survey, when we finished and we published it, there were people from Jubilee House who said, oh, don't mind these people. Oh, don't mind them. Now the results are out. When we went around, military officers and police officers and the rest said the way Dan Parry was treated at that, when he was invited to Parliament, was so disrespectful. You don't do that to,
the head of...
you don't do that. It's sacrilegious. That's what they say. You don't do that.
Also, but in a statutory hierarchical institution,
yes, you don't do that.
One should not even be able to think about it.
Sure. Okay. And Prof, as we wrap up with you, because you have to leave, what are your impressions of the voter turnout? What do they mean in terms of who is likely to win or likely to lose? We know what the trends say, but from your perspective, and also in answering that, can you also tell us what you make of the results and how fast or slow you think they're coming in, and what that could also mean for the tension that's simmering?
Well, in terms of the turnout, I think it means so many things. First, that the EC had increased the number of
polling stations.
But more importantly, that is a reflection of people's disillusionment with the Fourth Republic, and particularly with this government. That politics is not worth fighting for. And I think what that means is that we would need, whoever wins, we need a reset. We need a new type of politics with citizen participation. But I think it's beginning to create some problems because 4 years ago, I think we hovered around 74%, 75% thereabouts. And already by now, there were clear indications of what was happening. Right now, I think we are hovering, I don't know, probably about the 60s.
Yes.
So actually, when I was leaving Joy FM around 9:30, I thought we would have had most of the results.
And that's why I asked that second question. How do you feel about that?
Well, if you see all the tensions around the coalition centers at the constituency level, then it gives you a certain worrying feeling that it may not be wholly above board.
Right.
And that we need to be, I think we've overflowed the word vigilant. Maybe I ought to have taken some ISS number for that word. But I think I support Adam's position that we need to be there to ensure that no games are played.
No.
4 years ago, 8 years ago, I sat in this studio. And one of my colleagues who was involved in some games would tell me, when we fax the pink sheets, the system doesn't work. So can you, when you come to GHOne, tell people that there's a problem with the computers and blah, blah, blah.
Really?
Yeah. So there's a history to the suspicions when things delay. It ought not to delay this year and today because we've all signed at the polling station level. Parties have collated them at the constituency level, so people know what is happening. So 30 of my former colleagues went out today, and they have put here some of the signed pink sheets. So wherever we went to do the observation, we have our pink sheets.
Right.
So really, the more it delays, the higher the propensity for violence and disturbances.
But I think the NDC is projecting. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Because one of their big wigs is saying JM has 6 points, about six and above million.
Of course, we want to, because of what happened with the 2020 elections, and not even the 2016. We just want to be careful because sometimes the political parties want to put out what they say they have collated, and then it throws a lot of confusion in the system. So we just want to stay clear of that. We'll wait for the EC's results, but we also have our men on the ground who are observing keenly, and we definitely will bring you accurate facts. No two ways about that. So in wrapping up with you two, Dr. Bona, really, do you have any question? If you don't, we'll just wrap it up with him.
You talked about massing up. Obviously, that will bring more chaos. He says that the longer it delays. Should there be any contingency measure in the interim?
No, I think that I'm told they put in place enough measures to deal with the issue. There's a reason why, issues like tear gas. So I think that they are going in phases.
Let me hold you there.
Right there. So we have been bringing you some of the results coming in from polling stations. We are looking forward to all of that being collated at the constituency level, and we'll serve it to you right here on your election hub. Let me also mention that we are very interactive. Get onto our Facebook page, on YouTube as well. Drop your comments. Let us know what you think about the processes so far. You've been hearing from our analysts as well. They've been sharing their thoughts about the election process so far. Some of them applauding the Inspector General of Police for his proactiveness in ensuring general peace across the country. Unfortunately, some persons are reported to have lost their lives as a result of this election. We've heard the Peace Council condemning the shootings. The NDC in the Central Region has been doing the same. We also know that the two main parties, the NDC and the NPP, have been addressing the press after polls closed at 5. We heard from the NPP. We've also heard from the NDC. The NDC asking its supporters to exercise restraint, not to jubilate, yet to be vigilant. And we've also heard the NPP say same. So we will be monitoring the situation. We will be telling you what to expect in the coming hours. Stay with us. We will be right back after this. We're now waiting for certified constituency results. There's a lot of collation happening across the country. Our men and women are on the ground. They'll furnish us with the details. We've also been to the EC strong room. We've seen the mechanisms there, the fax machines, how they are going to be projecting the results onto the screens, the various presidential candidates and their men and officials who are also there to witness everything as it happens, the observer groups. Everyone is alert. We've also heard from the security analysts who are suggesting that the results should not be withheld any longer, because the longer we do that, the more tension is created. Unfortunately, there have been incidents of violence and loss of lives. Unfortunately, we were hoping it wouldn't happen in this election, but it has happened, and we've been picking reactions from the Peace Council as well. I still have my colleagues here with me. Lily and I have been doing this since 10. IB just joined us shortly. He's head of our political desk. He's been running us through what we've been observing on the ground, and the suggestion that you should know what is happening with your candidate or with your desire to lead us as of now, right?
Yes, exactly so. With the parliamentary candidate or the parliamentary process, every single candidate belonging to both the NPP and NDC has set up their own collation centers.
Sure.
If you are a candidate worth your salt, you should have that mechanism in place. And so some of them, as we speak, all the constituency polling station results have filtered in. They've inputted that into their system. They know exactly what their statuses are, as I mentioned. But I was taking you through the layers as laid out by the EC, so we know exactly where we are at this material point in time. So where we are now, the state we find ourselves in now, is the EC officials, together with the political party agents, with their laptops at the constituency collation centers. Now, all the results from the polling stations have been brought in. And of course, we brought you a report of the struggle some of the returning officers had to go through to assess some of the collation centers because of how people have massed up there and over a number of suspicions, right? So once that
is it that the EC underestimated the things happening in this particular election?
Yeah.
I mean, there have been so many analyses flying across, even before the 100-day period.
Lily, that's a good question. In fact, the EC underestimated a number of things, not just this one. So, for instance, we are told by the EC that funds were made available for renting of generators. Ayawaso North, the lights went out and they were struggling to even write on the pink sheets. A number of places
Potential
as well.
security threat even.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so what happened to the funds that were made available for the rental of generators? In fact, the EC, as we speak, doesn't have a standby vehicle for any of the polling stations.
Wow.
After the exercise. Some of the returning officers had to return to the collation centers with the ballot boxes in taxis. Not once, not twice. In fact, at the Ayawaso West Ogun, in one polling station, they were returning the ballot boxes and all the other electoral materials in an unregistered vehicle with a DV plate.
That's troubling.
That is troubling. How do you track such a vehicle? So the concerns there were that no, that was not going to happen.
In the event of commuting, what if something happens on the way?
That's the point. And so, this Ablekuma West, to be specific, the agent then said if they were to transport the materials in somebody else's private vehicle, they would rather opt for a taxi. And that was exactly what happened. They rented a taxi, and according to them, the driver is not known to anybody. So at least they could trust that driver. And that was exactly what happened. So the EC has underestimated a number of things, not just the issue of security. At the point, you have just 2 police officers. And at Ayawaso Central, they were overwhelmed when a group of people equally attempted storming the collation center with their own ballot boxes and thumb-printed ballot papers. We saw the scaffold that ensued there, somebody giving 2 warning shots, and then eventually there was a commotion leading to tear gas being fired, right? Gaglo was there to give us that account, where we had some of these thumb-printed ballot papers lying on the ground. So, yes, the EC probably felt after the 2020 elections, it had learned all the lessons, it had dotted the I's and then crossed the T's.
It appears it was actually not ready for this election.
I agree with you. And I made this point over the weekend, and that's before this weekend. I was in the Central Region, and that was about 2 days to election. The EC was then training as electoral officers.
2 days to the polls?
2 days to the polls.
Coming too late.
Yes. And so you definitely have challenges. In fact, we are yet to even get to the challenges of the figures and the computation and even how they write in words and in numbers.
Right.
We are yet to even get there because that reflects on the pink sheet, right? But when we talk about what to even do, in the course of the day, an electoral officer was arrested. The crime decided to tear off Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's head when issuing the ballot papers out to potential voters. Of course, we can all say it could be deliberate, but any electoral officer who is worth his salt or who has been trained will not do this.
And this was not just one ballot paper, 15 of them.
15 of them.
Yeah.
So after the first one, what happened? Second, up
We
to the
can say the
15th
first could probably
person.
be a mistake.
Exactly.
But after one, you cannot say the rest are mistakes.
These are not mistakes that we should expect. Now, at Ayawaso North, there was equally a military intervention, and this was what happened. So the lights went out. The MPP polling agent there then triggered an alarm that his life was under threat. Then the military came in. When they came in, the MP for the area, that's Jaja, Yusuf Jaja, was alerted. He then came. The military men then mentioned that we're here to ensure that nothing happens to the ballot boxes that have been sealed. Because at that point, they were just writing the results and then filling the pink sheet. The military then had to explain that they had no ulterior motive.
Right.
They were there to protect the ballot boxes. Eventually, they all landed at the Nima police station. And that was because the MP intervened. There were suspicions from the residents who had massed up there that the military were trying to tamper with the ballot papers. Only God knows what will have happened.
But aren't those concerns legitimate? Because we're told the military won't be involved at all in this election. We received information, right?
Yeah. Very legitimate, Benis. And that's where the conflicting information becomes a problem. First, the military will only intervene
when they are asked to.
And then second, we realize that in some polling stations, you wouldn't know whether the services of the military have even been requested, and they are there. You see them in the bucket of pickups, heavily armed, and they are moving around. And you wonder whether this is what the approval of the IGP.
That military officers go to various polling centers armed. Should that be the norm?
Per the modalities we were given, and per what the military themselves told us, what the chairman of the National Election Security Task Force, the IGP, Dr. George Akufu-Dampare, told us, that was not supposed to be the case. Yes, we can understand the general deployment as to go and lodge in this hotel in this constituency. That's understandable. Yesterday there were some images to that effect. That's understandable. But when it comes to leaving the hotels or your places of lodging to the polling centers, we were told that was not supposed to happen until there is a visible and evidently clear problem that has become unmanageable by the police detail. Nonetheless, that has happened. Where we are now, in fact, just before I came on air, and of course I heard you people talk about the fact that some military men were chased away because they were attempting to enter a collation center.
And the youth were chanting, "Arise, Ghana youth,"
That's where we got into. It's good the military men read the room and then left.
Decided to retreat.
Honestly, we could have been telling a different story by now. And I've scanned what's happened nationally, and I think that is the position that many people have taken. That there's very little you can do when we are large in numbers. So whatever we think you're doing that will not be beneficial to the progress of the nation, we will confront you.
And that will not reflect the will of the people.
Exactly.
I think that's the fundamental thing, that if this is what the people want, let no man using arms or technology or whatever means disrupt the will of the people. Let's allow it to be. Right.
Exactly that. And that resistance is enough a signal to anybody armed in uniform to know that tread cautiously. And like I said, it's good. Emotional intelligence to the highest level on the part of the military men who had to retreat. Because we have 2020 glaring on our minds. So far, we've recorded 2 needless deaths and then 2 in critical condition. In Tolon, of course, Nyampala, as we brought to viewers in the afternoon, and then the unfortunate incident this evening in Ewutu Senya East. We've always known that place to be a hotspot. In 2020, I covered that constituency. Gunshots were fired. People were wounded. There were initial reports that people had died, but subsequently we got to know that no, people were injured. This time around that we're supposed to know better and avoid the pitfalls of 2020. We've already recorded 1 death. And if what's happening in the constituency is anything to go by, then the security must be on high alert in foiling any aggravation of the situation in that particular constituency. Kudos to the IGP. In all the 2 instances, the arrests have been swift. And the police have equally been prompt in alerting the public about the individuals involved, and that's good.
And I know you at home have been waiting to know what the results are. At this point, if anybody is awake, it's just because they want to know what's happening, what are the figures saying, really. So these are the results that we have seen as projected in one of the constituencies, in the Tema West constituency, and so far we've received 62 out of the 285 polling stations. Number of polling stations with valid entry so far, 62. And this is what the figures are saying so far. Dr. Baumia has 7,404. John Dramani Mahama has 8,206. And Nana Kwame Bediako has 241. So these are the 3 highest polled results so far out of 285 polling stations in the Tema West constituency. These are the figures for 62 entries. I don't know, IB, what you think. That's a long way coming. We have about 223 to be specific, 223 more entries. But does it say anything? Is it too early to say there's a trend that we're seeing?
Well, it might be too early, but suffice to say that this is a blue-blooded constituency. Tema West has never been held by the NDC since its creation.
But are you talking parliamentary or presidential or both?
Both.
Right.
Both. It's not a constituency that's noted for voting skirt and blouse. In 2020, however, you speak to some NDC members and leaders and they tell you that they want that seat. But of course, that will be in their minds because what reflected on paper was different. Right? But of course, they will tell you how they believe that they want that seat. Before today, or before yesterday, because already we are in the following day. Before yesterday, and that's the election, there were many pollsters who had predicted that this constituency is turning green.
Okay.
And if the results you've given us so far is anything to go by, it's pointing in that direction.
It's still quite close, though. Just about 1,000 votes.
That's the
difference.
Point. That's the point. And so, just about 1,000 votes, and that's because we have 62 out of 285. But like I said, per the results you've just given us, there's somebody who's leading, and that person is in the green corner. So that's why I say that from what you've just given us, it's pointing in the direction of those who predicted that Tema West will turn green. As whether
is it not too early to call?
Yeah,
I get that point, but the point I'm making is that per the results we have just given viewers, right? That's the direction it's pointing. The direction can change,
right?
Because viewers are aware that there are many other polling stations outstanding, right?
Sure.
But the results you've given
over 200 polling stations.
Exactly. You just told viewers that John Dramani Mahama and the NDC are leading in that particular constituency. That's the point I'm making, right? But I'm telling you that historically, that seat has always been blue. And before yesterday's elections, analysts and political watchers had predicted that this time around, that seat is going to swing.
Okay.
Mind you, the contenders are different. Carlos Ahinkura decided to opt out. And we sat here and covered the internal elections of the NPP, and we heard the wailing from party delegates in the constituency who had said that their plans had been disrupted. They had, in a way, been disappointed by the decision by Carlos Ahinkura not to go again. But Carlos Ahinkura equally took a political decision. He nearly lost that seat in 2020. And so if you're a politician and you read the room, these are some of the decisions you will take. Yes, so no surprises there, if you ask me, as far as this collated results, collated results is concerned.
Talking about surprises, though, let's look at the Lions then, right?
Yes.
We have been following what's happening at Aswase. What are we picking? Aswase and Hohoi, what are we picking?
Well, if there is any constituency that we can beat our chest here and say that provisionally it has remained with the NDC in the Ashanti region, it will be Asawase. And yes, Manaf has put up a good fight per the figures I have seen, provisional figures I have seen. But Muntaka is Muntaka. We engage him on this platform. He had mentioned that he approaches every election like he's just been elected by his party to contest for the seat for the first time. And so he put in the work. And per the provisional results we are seeing, we understand that that seat will remain with the NDC. And so talking about Lions then, yes, I'm sure eventually we might have to come to Hohoi and what have you. But yes, as far as Asawase is concerned, it's remaining with the NDC.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. If you just joined us, this is your election hub, I beg your pardon, on GHOne and Star FM. And I'm here with head of our political desk, Ibrahim. And we've been talking about the figures we're seeing so far. He just spoke about the Lions then, which is Asawase. That is what we refer to as parties that are holding seats within strongholds of the other party. So you take Asawase, for example, the NDC has that seat within the Ashanti stronghold of the NPP. And when you come to the Volta region, Hohoi, where John Peter Amewu of the NPP is parliamentary member there, but that is, we know, a stronghold of the NDC. So you're seeing the Lions Den constituencies. Edrasetre Dumase is one of them, and New Edubiase, Setre, Afram Plains is also one of them. So, and Asawase, as you can see, Alhaji Muntaka Mubarak is the NDC's parliamentary candidate there. And these are results for last year. Last elections, I beg your pardon. Last elections, 2020, to be specific. These are not, and I'll say it again, these are not figures for 2024. These are figures for 2020. And Muntaka Mubarak polled 61,659, whilst Ali Duseidu got 31,256. At Edrasetre Dumase, Bawa Brima of the NDC had 3,056, and Salisu Bamba of the NPP had 2,509. In New Edubiase, Abdul Salam Adams of the NDC had 19,961. George Odro of the NPP had 17,913. Setre Afram Plains, Alex Adomako Mensah had 8,079, and Joseph Jemfi Owusu had 7,923. So once again, these are what was collated in the 2020 elections. When you come to the Volta region, which is the NDC stronghold, a Lion Den constituency there is Hohoi. John Peter Amewu had 26,952 votes, and Margaret Kweku of the NDC had 21,821. We are yet to see how it will play out this year in these Lion Den constituencies. But as you heard from head of our political desk in Asawase, the provisional results are pointing to Muntaka Mubarak retaining that seat for the NDC. Talking about the numbers coming through, let me just furnish you with the details from the Achiase constituency for the parliamentary result. Kofi Ahenkra of the NPP polled 12,076 votes, and Samuel Owusu Brako of the NDC polled 10,156 votes. Rejected ballots 256. Total votes cast 22,488. And by now you should know that we are entering the zone where the figures and the numbers make all the difference. We call it our game of numbers. Is our man with the figures to tell us more about the game of numbers. Hello, Emmanuel. The numbers are coming in. What exactly are we doing with the game of numbers?
I've maintained that in this particular electoral cycle, many others may not agree, but for me, the deciders lie largely within 4 regions in Ghana. We are beginning with what we call the Northern Alliance, or the split, which is the battle for the North. Speaking of the northern region of Ghana, we are looking at some 1.2 million people dotted across some 93 polling stations, and it's looking at some 18 constituencies in total. Ladies and gentlemen, we are looking at the numbers from inception to date of our democracy in the Fourth Republic. And so I want to begin off with 1996, because indeed 1992 for me is an outlier, because then there was a certain boycott. Let's look at how the figures traveled from 1996 to the year 2020. If you look at the data, you could see that the green line, which indicates the NDC, and the blue line, which indicates the MPP, have been moving. They both dropped, and then they both consistently, gradually, in a very slow-mannered pace, climb. But then the blue line seemed to be inching closer to the green line, and then now you could see the margin quite smaller. The NDC since 1996 has polled more than 50% in every electoral cycle from the northern region. The MPP, however, started off quite low, but if you can see from the map we have over there, they have been gradually increasing their pace. Is it because in the year 2000 a certain phase was introduced by the MPP? In the year 2000, John Ejekum Kufuor, we had Aliu Mahama join him in a ticket to run for presidency. Didn't make any impact. You could see from the board that then there was still a draw for both parties, so you wouldn't necessarily say that it actually made a certain huge impact. But from that time, there's another phase that was introduced into the body politics when it comes to between NDC and the MPP. John Evans Tamils had in the person of John Dramani Mahama, and Nana Akufo-Addo had in the person of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. And so the battle for the North, the two sons of the North, have been closely knitting their parties to win their sides to the favor of either the NDC or the MPP. As I told you earlier, the NDC has never done below 50% in the northern region since 1996. However, the narrative for the MPP is different. They have actually inched closer and they are doing well. So the North, now that we have both of them contesting for the first seats of the land, it is indeed a battleground state, because then of the 1.2 million people over there, all of them will be seeking to poll a significant number. The northern region, if you pay close attention, they constantly come out in their numbers to vote. So you're seeing a turnout of more than 80% constantly happen around the north. So if we are going to even base our estimate around 85%, we are looking at some 1 million votes from the northern region. Let's look at the trend. We started off from 2012. 2012, if you look at the numbers for John Dramani Mahama, he polled some 58.59%. For the MPP, they did around 38.78%. 4 years on, the numbers began to drop for the NDC and it shifted to the MPP side. Mahama did 56.08. The other deviation that he had initially secured in 2012, it went to Nana Akufo-Addo on the ticket of Bawumia being his VP, and he had 41.34%. In the year 2020, when all things, you want to say, went awry, people were not happy, John Dramani Mahama then again dropped from 56 to 52, and then the difference went straight to Nana Akufo-Addo and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, where he polled 46.40%. So if you look at the data, even in the last 3 electoral cycles, they haven't done terribly bad. They have actually increased their pace from 38 to 41 to 46.40%. If you're running an estimation of what they could get probably in this particular electoral cycle, what would it be? IB?
Well, it depends on the turnouts, and that is a common denominator. When the turnout is high, obviously you then expect the NPP to once again inch higher because it's been consistent, right? Just like in the Volta region, where the movement from 7% until the 2020 elections, where the NPP's candidate Nana Akufo-Addo had 14%. The NDC in Ashanti region, equally as well, moves up, sometimes stagnates, but of course the movement upwards has been consistent. So yes, we expect the NPP to increase its margin of defeat, as in reduce the margin of defeat in the northern region, all things being equal. But mind you, the voter turnout for this particular election has been shocking, to say the least.
But I also want to maintain the 85% projection that I want for the northern region, because I want to believe that despite whatever happens over there, they still manage to come out in their numbers to vote. So let me just stick with my 85% and picture what I want to do for 2024. Where in 2024, the map as it stands now is currently empty. No calculation whatsoever. And then I decide to do this particular calculation where I stick it at 85% by the 1.2 million people that are voting in the northern region. If I do this particular calculation, what I'm looking at currently is around 1 million, 1 million, and some 028 people. I want to run a very fair estimate for the northern region when it comes to starting off with the MPP, because they have actually not benefited so much from that particular region. As I told you earlier, they moved from 38, they went to 41, and they did 46% in the last electoral cycle. So a fair estimate between 38 and 46, I want to give them perhaps some 45% of what we are doing over here in the northern region by way of valid vote cast. So if I multiply this by 45%, assuming this is the best estimate of what the MPP could get in the northern region, what we are looking at is around some 462,000 votes. 462,000. This is what the MPP is getting in the year 2024 if we run by this analysis. Now, if you move away from this, the remainder of 45 is around 55% is going to the NDC. So 55% by the same figure. 55%. If I do the deduction, and if my math is quite right, I'm looking at some over 600,000 votes. That pegs it around some 1 million, yes. Perhaps give it some, yes, 600,000. It makes it perfect, and it gives us that 1 million votes. That is the fair estimate I'm giving the northern region based on past trends and based on the decline that we've been seeing. Because if you look at the trend from 1996 to date, if you look at the fact that we have both of them now not being a VIP to another person or one being a figurehead, both of them are actually leading as people who hail from the north. Not necessarily the northern region of Ghana, but people who come from the upper part, the northern side of Ghana. This is the fair estimate I am given to the MPP, and this is the fair estimate I'm giving to the NDC. If the MPP manages to poll 462,000 votes from the northern region, does it change their fortunes? No, I'm afraid not. There's still a long way to go. If our best estimate of what the number should be when it comes to winning this particular polls, the upper bound was given as some 7.36 million. If you take out 462,000, you are left with some around 6.9 million to go. If the NDC takes out 55% of 600,000, the 600,000, it means that out of that 7.36 million, they have to raise some 6.7 million votes to go. This is the battle for the North as I see it. Because between this and this, anything is possible. The NDC is likely to increase its numbers if it's able to consolidate its gains from previous years. If you look at it critically, over the past 3 years, 3 electoral cycles, the NDC has been losing steam. But what is quite significant that helped the MPP in the year 2016 is what might favor the NDC even more so now. Because in 2016, the conditions that were prevalent at the time, the conditions that people looked on to vote, the same conditions and even more people share the same narrative today. But then here is the caveat. In 2020, there was still the knowledge and the thought that things are not going well. But the MPP managed to move around from 41% to 46.6%. So this 45% even given to the MPP, they could actually top it up. And this particular number could actually go on a decline because constantly the NDC has been going on the decline since at least 2012. And the MPP has been on the ascendancy even when people have told them that, no, you're not running the economy well. This is the number. But here is the trick. Since Dr. Bawumia entered the race, as I mentioned to you earlier, the numbers for the MPP has been moving up. The numbers for the MPP has been moving up. Look at the dynamics over here. As of 2012, I told you earlier, they were doing some 38.8%. From 1996, now at 1996, the stakes were high. There wasn't any northern face from the then opposition being the MPP until 2000 when they brought in Dr. Aliyu Muhammad. Even at that time, it didn't do any magic for the northern part of Ghana when it comes to the MPP. But then, when the tickets of Dr. Bawumia came in, there's been some marginal some constant increases. And then these increases are moved from just 3% to 5% and could even go more. So there could be the narrative that they are not associating Dr. Bawumia with any ills. Perhaps his driver mate analogy might work in his favor, because in 2020, the narrative of a bad economy was still used against him. The narrative of a bad city was still used against him. The narrative of high cost of living was still used against him. But people from the north stayed true to their person. And so it could be the narrative as well that in this particular electoral cycle, he will do more than 45% in the northern region. And it's also likely that John Dramani Mahama could do more than 55% in the northern region, because the northern region of Ghana has constantly, they have never, since the Fourth Republic, given the NDC less than 50% of the votes. The question is, how many more votes can Dr. Bawumia gain in the northern region to close off the gains that the NDC has been making constantly, which has been on the decline, by the way, in the northern region of Ghana? 55% is what I pegged them at. 45% is what I'm saying the MPP can do, but it could go higher, it could go below. This is my map, which looks a bit scanty, but the figures as I put it, if you look at 45% of 1.028 million, we are looking at 462,000 thereabouts. If you look at 55% of the remainder, we are doing close to 600,000. That's still some over 100,000 votes to close. And looking at what we are seeing so far, there is still some long way to go. Lily and IB, I could see you were calculating, following closely, and I'm wondering what you also make of these numbers, because for me, this is how I see it. This is how I see the battle to play out in the northern sector of Ghana. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, Ivy, you want to take that?
All things being equal, yes, you're right based on your permutations, right? But the sons of the north have never been pitched against each other as we are witnessing today. So the dynamics are very different, right?
Right.
And so the son of the north on the ticket of the NPP has always been playing a supportive role. This time around, the son of the north on the ticket of the NPP is the leader. Now, John Dramani Mahama has led the NDC as a son of the north before. And since he came onto the scene, the political scene, he's the one who has been leading the NDC. And mind you, the North will weigh their two sons, right, and make a determination. So that is equally a factor that you cannot discount.